Boom. What up, ladies and gentlemen? Look, you thinking about ensuring your financial future with so many things going on in the world? I got an investment opportunity that you might be interested in. Let's get this show started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, Business Bros, today let's get ready to dive into the future of American oil. Today's guest is a leading family legacy of innovation and success in the oil industry, and this entrepreneur has secured over 100 million BOE, that's barrels of oil equivalents, and offers accredited investors a unique opportunity to grow their wealth. So let's welcome the driving force behind Panex Exploration, Mr. RJ Burr. Oil. It's the thing that drives our economy. If you can explain RJ as simply as you could, so maybe like a third grader could understand what you do, what is it that people are going to learn about today? What is it that you do for a living?
We basically produce American oil. We locate the reserves, we drill the wells, we produce them on location, and the buyers come and pick it up.
What inspired you to do oil? I mean, there's so many different types of industries. Not that it's a bad one. It's actually very good. Like you said, we use it in pretty much everything. But why did you decide, or as a family decide, to start going in the oil business?
It was one, I didn't really know it was a family business. First time I was taken on location, I was 7 years old. And I'm one of the fortunate ones, I guess, where, most people spend their lives searching for their purpose. I found mine at 7. My dad took me to the field, and first time I saw the pump jacks, I was hooked. Made my first sale 3 months out of high school, and haven't stopped. It's all I've ever done.
It's you're according to my notes, this is your third generation in this business. So you guys have seen a lot. Technology has drastically changed in the last 20 years, much more over the last couple generations. What's changed in the business, or maybe the vision of your business over the last couple generations?
Well, build your company overnight wells have already been found. Now, they might find some otherwhere. They might find oil in other places, and that statement will be proven incorrect down the road. But however, right now, all your spindle tops are gone. And so when you look at the American oil landscape, it's happened one time when two companies merged. But set those aside, there hasn't been one company reach the major oil and gas criteria of 100 million market cap in the last 40 years based on American oil. And the reason being is, like I said, all your spindle tops and all that have been found. And so what the oil companies, and that's really the biggest misperception about the oil industry. Most people don't truly understand what American oil, who we are. Roughly 83% of your oil, 90% of your natural gas, and more than 90% of the wells drilled are drilled by roughly 9,000 independent companies that average 12 employees or less. That's the American oil and gas industry. And so once you start to understand who the American oil and gas industry is, then you'll start to understand that when something happens that is negative to the industry, why it has such a profound effect on American companies. When you look at the price crash in April of 2020, if you were to ask the average person, hey, how did that affect the oil companies? Most people would have said, it's Exxon. They're big enough they can handle it. Well, they are big enough they can handle it. That wasn't the group of companies that was really affected by it. It was affected on those roughly 9,000 independents. And it came in pretty much two waves. The first wave was on the day the market crashed. Immediately, boom, there's a bunch of companies that were out of business, whether they were financially in trouble to begin with, whether they were younger companies, for whatever reason, that day a bunch of them went out of business. Well, the next wave came a couple of months later when we sent everybody home for COVID. The companies that could pay their employees more than the government and get them back to the field, they're the ones that made it. The companies that couldn't, a lot of them didn't make it. And so the biggest change is you had an acquisition opportunity open up here about 4 years ago We thought it would close in 22. We thought the grown-ups would return, and instead we got a stalemate. And so the window just stayed open. And what we've been doing while this entire thing has been going on, we've been making acquisitions, because whether people want to believe it or not, when the ether busts and everybody realizes that there's nothing that can economically or feasibly replace oil right now, everybody's coming back to it. And the people that own the oil at that position, they're going to be sitting in a position of strength. And we want to own as much of it as we can.
I've been listening to a lot of different things on the EV cars and the competition between charging stations and gas stations, and the main point I keep hearing is the turnover time. Like when you see a gas station, for example, a car comes in, pumps gas, and is gone. The turnover is really quick per customer, compared to like the EVs where it's taking 15 minutes minimum per customer. So there's that whole idea of people coming back to gas and oil products. You see it over and over again in its own industry, in the car industry itself. And I'm sure there's a lot of other products that are like that as well. Now, and anytime a market goes down, there's always a buying opportunity, and you guys have been aggressively acquiring different companies. So when you're looking for different types of investors to come in, what is an investor in putting their money into? Is it new exploration? Is it acquisition? What projects do we have lined up you're looking to get?
It's various. Most of them are drilling programs. We put together a specific number of wells. That's where the greatest tax benefits are had. You're looking, now I'm not a CPA. I can just give you a general rule of thumb, but you're looking at every 100,000 you invest, Uncle Sam's roughly going to pay for 35,000 of it. And so my partners are playing on essentially 65-cent dollars. It's an above line deduction. I truly believe it's the best tax benefits in the investment world. Now, the question is, what are we doing with that money? If I was going to put you in a position where we miss the wells and lose your money, then I've wasted your time. Mm-hmm. And where we're a little different is the fact that we don't really, and how we acquire properties, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds and bog y'all down. And how we acquire properties, we essentially stand on the shoulders of giants and get what they left behind. We love salt domes. Salt domes were your original geological formation back in the Wild West days of oil. It was the first geological formation your geologist could identify. Well, the reason we love them is it is difficult drilling. You have to have a certain level of expertise to drill these wells. And so it removes a lot of the competition. Well, secondly, your old oil companies are about like spoiled kids in the sense that their favorite toy is their next toy. And so what they would do back in the day, they'd drill a well, they'd hit it, they'd cut backflips there in oil, man. Then all of a sudden they'd drill 40, 50 wells around that one well over the next couple of years. Well, then all of a sudden they'd hit a well 5 miles away. Well, they thought they produced all the oil from this. They'd just pick up and move 5 miles away. Remember, this is 20s, 30s, 40s. And so you have a lot of these areas. Now, a lot of them have been completely developed over the next 100 years. A lot of them have been completely developed. However, there's a lot of them that haven't. And so what we do is we go in and we analyze those fields. We gather all the data we can, and we basically go in and develop the reserves that they left behind. We put our partners in a position where rarely will we ever drill a well where we're not directly offsetting proven production.
And that's a good strategy. You mentioned that there were like over 9,000 small companies, and I'm sure that a lot of them have their own independent strategies on how they go about acquiring these different types of wells. But you also said you were acquiring a lot of existing companies, and I'm wondering, when you acquire some of these companies, do you have to modify the processes that they do things, or do you kind of like, now you're doing it our way? Like, I'm imagining there's got to be a process, a way. Like you said, a lot of these companies are small. Like, what's that acquisition process like when you're acquiring at a rate like that?
If we agree with the strategies, we go with what's been working. If it's not broke, don't fix it. However, in some cases, we need to streamline things. It just varies. But the main acquisitions that we're in is buying reserves. We already have our team built, and I'm one of those guys. I truly believe that you get what you pay for. There's a reason the Yankees are the Yankees and the A's are the A's. I'm sorry, A's fans. And so when it comes to the team in an oil company, there's really two different sides of the business. There's the fundraising and operating side, and then there's the operations and geological side. And if you're able to raise money and manage the company efficiently, yet you can't find oil or drill or produce it, you're wasting your time. Well, if you can find oil, drill and produce it, but you can't raise the money to drill the wells, again, you're wasting your time. And so you have to have an equal balance. However, from my standpoint, my crew in the field is probably the most important asset we have, because they're the guys that actually do the work, that know how to drill the wells. That they've developed a new way to drill these salt dome wells that is outstanding. We have competition that they're trying to figure out what we're doing. And it's due to the fact, I'd love to say that I'm the one that came up with it. But no, I basically, I read a book years ago called Think and Grow Rich. And one of the important lessons I learned in that book is while it's important to know what you know, it's more important to know what you don't know, than hire somebody who does. And so I stick to those principles, and that's why we believe our team in the field is the best out there. And when it comes to making acquisitions, that's what we try to build. We have one foundational principle of this company. It's our partners. Without our investing partners, we don't have a business. And so every decision we make and everything we do has one goal. Is it good for the partners? If that answer is not yes, we don't do it. That doesn't matter how good it is for us, because without our guys, we don't have a business. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm as capitalistic as anybody out there. I want the biggest house, the biggest car, the biggest dog. That's just who I am. However, having said that, I know that for me to get to my goals, I have to win for my partners first. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. And so that's really the foundation of everything we do. Now, when you look at what's going on in the world, and you look at how the oil and gas industry really affects everybody's day-to-day life, that's the biggest question that most people don't understand. Most people don't understand that the modern world didn't begin until 1859, when the first oil wells drilled in the U.S. The entire modern world, the foundation of who we are as a society, was built on oil and gas. From plastics to medicine to cosmetics to 6,000 products are made from one barrel. If it says poly, it's oil. And so most people don't realize that you could randomly grab, I truly believe, you could go anywhere in the world, and if it's a modern society, you could randomly grab one person and they will have at least 2 products of oil on it, and most likely not even know it. And so bringing that education, because I look at our education system, and this is getting in a whole nother realm, but I think one of the greatest failings of the education system is not teaching people the importance of oil in their lives. Because as a product, it has created more wealth. It has brought more people out of poverty. It has done more for the human condition than any product we've ever utilized. Yet we've been told it's the devil for 70 years. Yeah. And so I kind of look at it like this. As long as they're scaring people away from oil, keep scaring them away from oil. If you want to DEI it, if you want to run people away, if you want to get them out here, that's fine. Keep doing it. And while you're doing it, I'm going to keep buying, because the number, and it's not me. We were talking about electric cars earlier. I have no problem with electric cars. The minute an electric car can do for me what my Ram can do, I'll gladly switch.
Yep.
The fundamentals of why you want an electric car is what I disagree with. Most people think, oh, I'm driving an electric car and being clean. Well, you didn't think about the 500,000 pounds of material that had to be moved to make one lithium battery. Then you look at, here's how I look at it. If your goal is to save the world, if that's your stated goal, however, to do that, we have to destroy the world first. You're not a serious person, and I'm not going to engage in an argument with you. Because for us to do what they want to do with the green movement, we would have to rape the earth like we never have for raw materials, especially when you have something like natural gas or nuclear sitting right there. Yep. Natural gas and nuclear do exactly what the environmental movement wants it to do. Natural gas, the infrastructure's pretty much already there. Everybody, for the most part, has gas lines run to their homes. You could put converters on every car. You could run a gas line straight to your garage. Now you don't have to worry about going to the gas station anymore. Or look at nuclear. You mean to tell me we can run the most advanced nuclear subs on nuclear power, yet we can't use it here? No, we're letting a 40-year-old movie keep us scared. And so it's just when you look that there are solutions out there, because I truly believe there's environmentalists in all of us. Nobody wants to live in trash. I know I don't.
No,
I know I love nothing more than going out of my house first thing in the morning, looking at my front yard. It's beautiful. It's dialed in. It's manicured. Well, if that's not environmental, I don't know what is. And so just because I don't agree with the prescription, so to speak, for what they want to do to fix it, and that's a whole nother argument whether you want to think it's going wrong or not. But I just look at it. when you look at what they want to do and then you look at the solutions they put forth, just do the math. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. It'll never equal 1.9, never equal 2.2. It'll always be 2. And if they're telling you different, they're lying to you. And so just look at the math. To generate the amount of electricity we use as a country, it would require a solar farm using the most advanced solar panels known to man. It would require that solar farm to be the size of New Jersey and would require the sun to shine 365 days a year, 24 hours a day at Arizona summertime intensity. Mathematically, it's just
feasible.
Yeah. And so
it's just not feasible.
And so you just kind of you sit back and you cry about it. And I mean, not cry, I mean, but you feel bad because look, we're running in, we have a train wreck straight ahead of us. And it's easy to get away from it. It's easy to avoid it. We just have to avoid it. But for some reason, we keep steering straight into it. And when the bubble burst, I mean, I hate to say this, but we do what they want to do in DC, oil prices are going to go to $200 a barrel.
Easy.
And I hate it too, because I pay at the pump too. Now, what I'm able to do that most people aren't, I'm able to show my partners a way to get that revenue, that flow of revenue reversed. Instead of it continually going out, I'm able to show them how to turn it around and get it coming back to them. Because whether they want to believe it or not, oil's not going anywhere for the near future.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. And with everything that you literally talked about, there's a ton of people that are on the same page. We understand what's going on. And with the political landscape where it is right now, we don't exactly know what's going to happen, but we know what people are saying on what side. And we can easily see with a little bit of research what the consequences of those actions are going to be. So I want to make sure people know a little bit more about your operation and this investment opportunity. It's not for everybody, but it is an opportunity for a certain type of investor. Can you tell me a little bit about who your ideal investor is and what you're looking for in that ideal investor?
Yeah, typically it's people with liquid available funds who are needing tax benefits. That's not the reason to do it, but for me to not acknowledge the tax benefits, that'd be ignorant of me. It's partners. Now, my partners, they live, I call it the 3 S's. They live from 3 piles of money. That first pile is their safe pile. That's a pile they pay their bills with, take care of their family with. That's their sacred pile. Excuse me. That's their sacred pile. Nobody touches that pile. Their second pile is their safe pile. Their safe pile, that's where they put their gold. That's where they put their silver. That's where they put their real estate. Don't get me wrong. They want it to grow, but it's more important that when they come back to it, they want to know just as much as there. Mm-hmm. Their third pile is their speculation pile. That's the pile they play with me on. That's the pile they want to make multiples, 2, 3, 5, 10 to 1 on their money. Well, the biggest shift I've seen is it really started here a couple of years ago when the silver crunch happened. I have several partners who have quite a bit of money in silver certificates. And all of a sudden they realized there's more paper than there is silver. And so they kind of had a little panic. All of a sudden their safe pile wasn't as safe as they thought it was. And so I'm sitting there thinking about it, and it hit me one night because when my partners have a problem, I have a problem. And so I'm trying to think of a solution, and all of a sudden it hit me. And I was talking to my wife. I said, baby, name one product that has a fair value, that has demand for decades to come, and that everybody has to have. She said, it's oil. I said, absolutely. I said, you have half the population want it free. Half the population wanted $1 million a barrel. So you have 2 equally opposing forces pulling on every barrel. And then you have the fact that 83% of the world is just now beginning to use it. What do you think they're going to do? Once they see the benefit of oil, are they going to say, oh, we're destroying the environment, let's stop using it, let's go back to the Stone Age?
Not at all.
Or are they going to tell Greta to shove it and keep using it? You know, and so you see demand and so if we weren't sitting on the oil, if we didn't have the logs, and that's a full geological discussion, but if we didn't know we were sitting on the oil, and if we knew that we didn't have, heck, we got 200 wells we need to drill to develop all of our holdings. And so I tell my partners, look, if you're tired of the craziness, if you're tired of the rat race, get your money out of the rat race and back it on something that you know is going to have a value, oil. And truly the biggest question my partners face is, now there's nothing guaranteed. If anybody ever calls you in oil and gas and guarantees you something, they're lying to you.
Yep.
Let me say that first. However, with what we've done, I truly believe my partners, the biggest question they ask themselves, when I put $1 in, am I going to pull $2 or $3 out, or am I going to pull $10 or $15 out? That's a question they have to ask, because with all the geological well control we have and all the wells, I mean, heck, every well you drill, you create a log. And that log is basically, it tells you exactly what is in your well. From the 1940s through today, you do the same thing. Now, today, we do get a few more data points, and our logs are prettier because the printers and computers we use are better. However, the basic raw data is the same. The permeability, the porosity, the resistivity, that's the same data you're collecting. And so when you're looking at a log from 1940, it's going to tell you the same thing that a log from today tells you. Well, those logs are public data if you know where to look to pull them out. And so when we acquire a property, the first thing we do is gather every bit of data from that property. And in this case, we acquired all the land, roughly 3,000 acres around the Choctaw Salt Dome, which when you hear them talk about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, that is our salt dome. We own all the land around it. Well, that was discovered over 100 years ago. They drilled roughly 200 wells around this field. We believe they've left about 100 million barrels in place, and that's what we're going to get. Well, once we bought it, the first thing we did is we acquired 40,000 different data sets on this land. It had most of the logs from those 200 wells that had been drilled. We've looked through all those logs, and what you'll see is the average well out there will have anywhere from 3 to 7 different pay sands. We'll have anywhere bottom side 300,000-400,000 barrels of oil, top side 1 million, 1.5 million barrels of oil. That's your average successful well. And so you look at the logs and they look the same, boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden you see one that looks just like the others, multiple stacked pay sands, beautiful log. But when you pull the production report, there's very little production. And so you kind of scratch your head and go, that should have had at least 500,000 barrels of oil in it. I wonder why they didn't produce it. And so you earmark it and set it aside and keep going through. And then we saw another one, and we saw another one, and another one. And when it was all said and done, we had several dozen of these logs that were beautiful logs with very little production. And when we did the research and figured out why, these guys really had 2 problems: gluttony and sand. And gluttony in the sense that when they hit their wells, for whatever reason, they wanted to produce as much oil as they could as fast as they could. So they turned them wide open. Well, that problem right there introduced the second problem, the sand. When you produce these wells, you're going to produce sand with them. At that point in time, they didn't know how to deal with the sand. Think about it this way. You have a big gulp in front of you, crushed ice and Coke with no lid on it. You want to drink that Coke and you want no ice in your mouth. Well, if you have to put it to your lips, you have to block it with your lip or your teeth. You have to block that ice and slowly drink to get the Coke. Well, That's how you have to produce these wells. That's the exact opposite of what these guys did. They just opened their mouth and poured the Coke in, ice and all. And what happens, yes, you're going to get some beautiful initial rates, but all of a sudden you look up a couple of weeks later and you have a 5,000-foot column of cement. Well, their choice at that point is to drill a brand new well or walk away. Most of them walked away. And so what they essentially did, they showed us where the oil was. They raised the money, drilled the well, and proved the oil was there. They produced a little of it to show that you can produce it. And then they walked and basically left it for us to go and get. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I would love to say our philosophy is a lot more complicated than that. But that's it. We simply go next to proven production and drill another well. Now, you look at the Choctaw, we've drilled 11 partnership wells. We placed 10 of them into production. The one well we missed was a mechanical failure. Well, we hit oil on the well. We just lost the well when we got hung in the hole. Once we figure out how to get past what hung us, we'll re-drill that well. But we're putting our partners in a position where they know every time we put the drill bit in the ground, I truly believe if we are able to get to total depth, we're going to put it into production. The big question we have is how big is the well going to be?
And this is why working with people who have that experience make all that difference in the world, because you're literally saying what a lot of people struggle with in business. They're looking for customers, looking for clients in real estate. It's like, how do you find the person who's selling their home? Well, you can start with the low hanging fruit. You start with the guy who has a for sale by owner sign in his front yard, right? Like that guy has his hand up saying, I'm ready to sell. You're literally doing the same thing. They already got the oil, they proved the concept, they did all the work, and then they walked away. Well, that's right there saying, hey, I'm ready to do some business. Come grab some. You guys are scooping them up. That is some amazing stuff. We're low on time, so I want to make sure that people can get a hold of you. If they want to take advantage of all these opportunities, they can clearly see that you have oil ready to be drilled. You have a process in place. You're transparent, communicating with your partners. You keep them in the forefront. What can people do to find out about your company and becoming investors themselves?
The easiest way to contact me is by email, RJ Burr at Panex.us. I'm the only one who gets your name, and I'm selfish about names that come to me. I don't give them to anybody. The second place, and maybe the most important, we created a website called Panex.us/learn. And that website was created specifically for individuals who've never invested in oil before. We want to give you a base foundation. If I could give anybody any advice, educate yourself on oil. I truly believe if you're sitting in a good financial position where you can have your money work for you, whether it's with me or whether it's with somebody else, I truly believe you need to have some of your portfolio in oil. There's too much upside and too much potential in that industry. However, if you don't know anything about it, you can step into a lot of bear traps. And so you need to educate yourself on the industry. And that's what that website was put together for. We have Oil and Gas 101 that basically just gives you the foundations of oil, how we drill our wells, what we're looking for, and the kind of products that come from oil. Then our Oil and Gas 102 shows you the tax benefits and breaks down the tax benefits. It's just a tremendous place to build your knowledge. Like I said, whether you participate with us or not, it's just a tremendous place for you to understand, well, oil's basically the engine that drives the world. And we're all in the oil business, whether you want to be or not. Only difference is some of us make money in that business and some of us continually spend money in that business.
Ooh, I love that line. Look, ladies and gents, at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. A little bit of education can go a long way, and you don't need to be an expert in the field. You do need to educate yourself so you can speak the same lingo and understand what's going on, which is what you'll find at panex.us/learn. Learn about the industry, and then you have a conversation with professionals who've been at it for a long time and elevate your status. So never give an investment advice. Always educate yourself, and there's a good place to do that. Go to panex.us/learn. Learn all about that oil. And then when you're ready, shoot RJ an email, rjburr@panex.us, and get yourself involved. That's the way to do things. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. RJ, man, you're absolutely right. And I love that. You can either continue to pay for all your oil products, whether you know you're paying for them or not, or flip that around, have some investments, and have that oil product start paying you. Thank you very much for being on the program today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.